Welcome everyone to the June NSO Zoom meeting. Let me get my screen shared. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, Richard, I can hear you fine.
Thank you, Katie. Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about USSF recently did a presentation on identifying and dealing with dissent, and we also want to cover the law changes. And for the law changes, we'll hit that first. We're going to actually start implementing these in our tournaments in July. So what's the changes for 2025? So first of all, they have clarified in the laws of the game that there will be a team captain who should be identified for the referee, and that most communication should occur between the captain and the referee as opposed to several other team players. I don't know how far this will kind of get pushed down through to our leagues. And so although this is a law change, I want to share it with everybody, but I'm not sure that this is the approach we want to take in regards to managing our games of only allowing one person to communicate with the referee crew. I do know that on some of our games, this may be a good tool to use in order to manage the game better. And so it may be a law of the game that we may bring up to help manage the game. Anybody have any questions about the team captain law? Okay. Next is, I think, the biggest change that we're going to have for this year, which is the new 8-second restriction on goalkeepers and them controlling the ball. So I'm sure that all of us know that currently in the laws of the game, goalkeepers have 6 seconds to release the ball once they have gathered it up. And after 6 seconds, what is it as referees that we're supposed to do? Come on, someone's got to know the answer.
It's an indirect free kick for the opposing team at the spot where the keeper had the ball.
And how many of us have called that infraction of the law?
We don't consistently, especially at the beginning of the games. It only comes into play towards the end when there's complaints of time wasting.
Yep. So I think what they're hoping to do with this law change is give the referees the ability to enforce this law with a less severe punishment, because when in the previous 6-second rule, it was an indirect free kick where the infraction occurred, and now with this new law of the game, it is a corner kick after the goalkeeper has held the ball for more than 8 seconds. And so the mechanics of this will be that we will count the first 3 seconds silently per se, and or if you want to do it verbally so people can hear you, you can. And then the last 5 seconds, we will actually both verbally and non-verbally communicate that we are counting down to 0 seconds, in which if the keeper still maintains possession of that ball, we would have a corner kick for the opposing team. I think the important here is that it's on the goalkeeper controlling the ball with their hands and or arms. I think this is my... Any questions about the 8-second restriction on goalkeepers? Okay, Craig and Rachel, I know you guys are helping me in regards to chat because I can't see it based on what I'm displaying on my screen. any comments in the chat so far?
We don't have any questions or comments at this time.
Okay, perfect.
Richard,
We'll
I assume with the small-sided games where there is a build-out line, we still allow them to hold it until everyone has reached past the build-out line, and then we start our 8 seconds, correct?
Is that how we've been doing the 6 seconds?
I think that's how I've been doing it. We don't count small-sided game. Well, first of all, even adult games, we haven't been enforcing 6 seconds, so we certainly haven't been doing it in 7v7 games. But now that IFAB wants us to be more consistent in enforcing this rule, uh, um,
I think
the keeper doesn't have to play the ball until everyone's behind the build-out line in small-sided games. That's the way it's always been since they introduced the build-out line, what, 5 years ago, 4 years ago?
Yeah, and I think KD, that's a great way to kind of approach it, in that if you have an opponent's team complaining about the 8 seconds not being counted, that we can easily say, well, once you're past the build out line, I will start to count the 8 seconds to help to reinforce the first rule modification of the mod game, which is for the attacking team to retreat behind the build out line. So yes, I think the answer to your question is that 8 seconds really shouldn't be started to be counted until the attacking team has gotten on the field to be behind the build out line.
Thank you.
This screen here is in regards to the start and restart of a drop ball. This is giving us a little bit more leeway in regards to that we can give it to the team that had the last possession, and or we can give it to the team in which the ball most likely would have gone to appropriately. I hope that most all of us are utilizing this law in the aspect of sometimes delaying maybe the stoppage of play based on having a team in clear possession of the ball in which we can drop it to them for the restart and we don't have this controversy. But if you aren't able to have clear possession, you do have now the ability with this law change to provide it to the team in which it most likely would have been in possession with. I think the one part where you may get yourself in trouble is that when we get hit by the ball as the referee, it should be going back to the team who had possession prior to the turnover because of it hitting us. Ball in and out of play. Again, I think this one here is just a plain clarification. I struggled in understanding how this would impact my games per se as a referee, but this is just allowing that if we believe that a outside agent was not trying to create problems for us in regards to them touching the ball before it went in and out of play, that we don't need to deal with it in regards to misconduct. Offsides, I encourage you all to read this one over and over again. I think the only individuals on the pitch that will understand where this comes into play will probably be the referees, but this now allows that when the goalkeeper throws the ball, the last point of contact should be used for the purpose of determining an offside position. And so most likely this is going to then, at this point, reset your offside line in regards to the last play in which it was played back. Next is our fouls and misconducts. Again, this gets into the aspect of the 8-second rule in regards to that they needed to delete the items in regards to the indirect free kick and changing that over to a corner kick for the opponents. And there's additional text in regards to the corner kick. At this point, anybody have any questions in regards to the laws changes for 2025, 2026?
Richard, I have one, and there's only 13 of us on this call today. I don't know what other organizations in our area are doing to address these law changes, but they're supposed to go into effect July 1st. And with the summer tournaments coming up, I think the 8-second rule by the goalkeeper is going to be the one that's just going to be the most inconsistently enforced throughout these matches, right?
Yep.
What are the other organizations doing to make sure we're all on the same page? Because I feel like this is going to be the biggest point of contention with coaches, with parents, spectators this coming summer in a week when this becomes effective.
Yep. So I know that we are working with Starfire, who is the organizer of most of the tournaments on NSO in regards to helping them communicate this out to the teams that are participating in their tournaments. We will also be working with our clients, Pac Northwest, Valor, Eastside, Cascade FC, and making sure that they're also communicating it out to their teams that are participating in their tournaments in regards to the 8 seconds. I think that's the nice part of implementing this, and we've always tried to do our law changes during the summer tournaments. We haven't had big changes over the last few years. This is kind of probably one of our biggest ones. So that way we can work out the kinks, that being both the teams as well as the referees in enforcing these new laws of the game, and it's not going to have a huge impact like it would during league play. But I think, Katie, the best I can say is that in NSO, we're definitely going to reach out to tournament directors to communicate it to their teams. And I really have not heard much from other referee associations in regards to how they're going to implement.
And have you heard from just anecdotally from other refs on what they think of this law change and whether it's going to be it's going to be same as always? It's one of those we ignore until the end of the game, or because IFAB obviously wants us to consistently call this, whether it's the first minute of the match or the 91st minute of the match, right? And that's why they're
Yeah.
changing this law. What's
Yeah.
your feeling from other refs in general?
So, I think that's a great question in the aspect of what we permit, we promote. And if we don't enforce this law of the game, then we're going to undermine the laws of the game once again, just like we didn't with 6 seconds. I hope that referees, through the different initiatives that have been occurring, especially the referee abuse prevention initiative, that we are going to take action here. U.S. Soccer and FIFA has said, we understand the laws of the game definitely created a situation that probably enticed referees not to enforce a 6 second rule, because it kind of was like, as refs, we just kind of counted 6 seconds and then we theoretically could blow the whistle and call an indirect free kick on that team. I think what they've done here is they've made this law change very thoughtfully, adapted some of the aspects of the indoor game, in which we're saying you have 8 seconds to release the ball goalkeeper. And if you're not doing it, the ref's even going to give you not just the ref's going to give you also a verbal warning to let you know how much time you have left. I think I have seen several referees use a similar tactic in regards to under the 6 second law. They may warn the keeper in which, hey, you only have 6 seconds, you need to speed it up. That way, that gave them the ability that if they called it on them the next time they didn't do it within 6 seconds, usually the referee didn't get yelled at, usually the goalkeeper got yelled at. So I think this verbal component of the law change, in which we're having to verbally state the last 5 seconds in which they're holding it, is going to pretty much create the situation and where we're not going to have to penalize for a foul. But as you said, KD, if we all don't walk out there and enforce this law of the game, then we're undermining the integrity of the sport and we're setting ourselves up for failure. Anybody have any other questions about the law changes?
Yes, I do. Just a follow-up question. You said before, if I heard that correctly, that the tournament organizations will communicate that to teams and so forth. Is that the only way that's being communicated, or is there some sort of an education or official communication going out to all teams, particularly the coaches? Because I can see sort of a scenario where coaches say, if we call a foul because a goalie kept the ball for 12 seconds instead of 8 seconds, they just say, no way, nobody told me about this rule, and then mayhem breaks out. Is there some sort of, I guess the question is there some sort of communication, formal communication going to teams and coaches?
I think you've hit right on part of the problem here in regards to any law or rule changes within soccer. I think that participants and coaches can portray their ignorance in regards to the laws of the game. But I think we all know that on July 1st, IFAB and FIFA have always updated their laws of the game. And if they're true students of this sport, they would be looking to find out what these law changes are. I think definitely this is an easy topic to cover in your pregame with your captains during the coin toss. I know that in tournaments, we may not always do a coin toss because we're trying to keep those games on time, but there's definitely an opportunity for us to make sure the captains are aware of the law change. And then also we can always create the situation on the first time that we do have a keeper having possession of the ball and saying, hey, remember, keeper, you only have 8 seconds. And then at the 5-second mark, starting to count down. So we need to be communication ports in which we can share this information just as much as anybody else can be. And I'm pretty sure that after one corner kick that a team gets called against to them, they will pretty much figure out the new law of the game. And I doubt that it will completely alter the outcome of the game in which they have been penalized on.
I like the idea of, including this in the pre-games activity. But so you're saying in between lines, if I hear you correctly, or maybe I missed this, there's no official communication going to team and coaches, or like there's a mandatory training for coaches, like 20 minutes, say, here are the 5 new laws or anything like that.
Not that I'm aware of, just like there's not any mandatory training for referees in regards to the 5 new laws.
Okay, got it.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, then I'm going to get us into the next part of this presentation. This is a presentation that the U.S. Soccer Federation referee program did back in, I can't remember if it was March or April. And I found it very useful in helping to be able to identify and deal with dissent. And so we'll walk through this evening. The more interactive that you are in regards to this, the better this material will be. And so I think this is very important in this initiative. Not only has U.S. Soccer created the referee abuse prevention program, but then they provided us this great education in regards to identifying and dealing with dissent, which often can escalate into referee abuse. And hopefully the information that we cover tonight will give you some better ways to be able to distinguish between something that can be managed, something that needs a yellow card, or something that needs a send-off. And us all having those same filters to put them into those 3 buckets, and we provide that in a consistent way, hopefully will help to change the game so that it's more enjoyable for all that are involved. I think an important part of this to understand tonight as we go through this, there are some distinctions between what US soccer may say and then what pro may say. And this kind of talks a little bit about the differences between those two leagues. And I think this is something I hear from referees often is that, we can watch some pro clips and see what they're doing and what they want done on their games. But that's not how the games that I'm doing on Saturdays, Sundays, or in the evenings during the weekdays works. So hopefully tonight, as we go through this material, most of the recommendations that I'll share with you in regards to decisions is what US Soccer wants, but we'll even talk a little bit about what Pro may want as well. Now, tonight's presentation, I know we usually try to stay within a 60-minute time frame. We'll probably go over our 60 minutes, especially since we spent some time on the new laws of the game. But I understand if you need to sign off early, that's great. And if you can stick around, that's even better, because I think you'll find this information very, very useful. So I think the first thing is really about the point of emphasis with referees in dealing with dissent. So in the laws of the game, dissent is defined as a public protest or disagreement, whether that be verbal or physical, with a matched official's decision, which is punishable by a caution or yellow card. Sounds pretty straightforward, doesn't it? I figured I'd get a couple laughs there. So what's the impact of dissent on our game? So please use the chat or if you want to raise your hand or just speak out. What do you feel is the impact of dissent on our games that we officiate?
It sets the tone of what is acceptable behavior, not only from the participants, but from the spectators. I think we've all seen that once a coach is dissent, it kind of opens the floodgates for the parents to do it. It's like a green light. Since the coach is doing it, I guess I can say something to the ref too. So it sets the tone of the match.
So when you have a coach that is starting to dispute a referee's decision, your experience has been it seems to open the floodgates for others to jump on the bandwagon and participate in dissent as well.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
What other impacts does dissent have on our games?
It could impact the referee's attitude towards the game going on and could make him or her make decisions that they might not if they were in the right headspace.
Yeah, so the participants are trying to influence the referee's decision making on the field. Maybe it starts to disrupt play, I would think too. Anybody else have ideas of what dissent does to your games?
At a macro level, it affects the number of people who want to ref, and it affects our ability to staff these games so there are games with officials.
So that's what US Soccer Federation describes as what impacts the game based on dissent. Why do players dissent our calls? I think Rachel, you talked about hoping to maybe intimidate the official to affect their future decisions. Do any of you start to second guess what decisions you are making? thinking that maybe you're not seeing the game that the players are seeing?
Yeah, Richard, sorry to monopolize the responses. I wanted to give other people the chance to talk to, but sometimes it's just a natural human reaction. I think some of us have also played the game, and when we know that we weren't the one who touched the ball last, but the ref called it the other way, it's a natural human reaction. And so yeah, it's just I didn't touch the ball. It should be our ball. It's yeah, and that's why we dissent.
Yeah. And I think it's important, and I think maybe some of us lose um, perspective in regards to that. People aren't yelling at us as the person who's out there officiating the game as much as they're yelling at the uniform that we're wearing. They're trying to influence the uniform in making decisions to go their way, like a simple direction on a throw-in. So next, let's kind of get into, as I was talking earlier, in regards to the kind of the range of player responses. And U.S. Soccer Federation has really tried to put this into buckets for us. And I think when we can put these into buckets, we then can decide what we need to do with it in regards to helping to maintain the integrity of our game. So not all verbal or physical responses to referees are considered dissent. I think that's important to understand, and that we have to identify language and actions correctly and then manage them appropriately. So US Soccer is saying that here's our range. We have emotional outburst or response. We have dissent. And then we get into that really bad category of offensive, insulting, abusive language and or actions. So let's kind of digest this a little bit more. In regards to emotional outburst responses, what type of things do you think fit into this category?
Come on, ref.
Yes, there's a good example. I like that. That's just a one-liner trying to persuade us. What else? What else?
No
What
way.
other examples?
No way.
Yep.
Maybe swearing that's not at somebody, but just towards themselves, I guess.
You must have
So
repped my son a
profanity
lot, Rachel.
because I missed the goal.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think, categorized in this is, something out of frustration, something that's immediate, it's not sustained over a long period of time. Maybe it's a result of a referee decision or a teammate's action, and or even they're feeding off the atmosphere of the game that we're on. It's not severely aggressive towards anyone, or directed towards the official, and doesn't hit that category of personal, public, or provocative. And I think personal, public, or provocative is concepts that we've talked about on our webinars over the last few years. So here's kind of our emotional outburst response bucket. So let's take a look at some video here, and we can kind of see how this fits into the game. Are you guys seeing the video okay? Did I lose
Yes,
everybody?
Richard. Yes, Richard. We are seeing the video.
Okay.
Yep. We don't have any sound, but we are seeing the video.
Yeah, I don't have any sound on my side either. So does everybody see here how, pretty much in that situation, the player didn't like the call, but is kind of just, makes his gestures. It's brief, it's not aggressive, and moves on. So this is an example of where USSF says you can manage this. There's no reason for dissent, and I will tell you that pro views it in the same way. It's an obvious foul. He doesn't like the foul because he committed it, but yet he says something, but he moves on quickly and gets to his next position on the field. Nothing that we really need to do here. Okay, here's our next one. We all know this is going to be a good game with Seattle and Portland, so. What does everybody feel about this clip?
It's a little higher degree than that previous clip, but maybe not into the zone of dissent yet. But moving towards that.
Getting us maybe a little closer. It's it's immediate, it's not prolonged, it's not really directed at the referee per se. So again, both USSF and Pro said, this is fine to manage and not get ourselves to needing to do a dissent here. I know we all love the disputes over decisions on throw-ins. So here, once again, we really don't have a whole bunch of prolonged reaction or dispute of the decision. USSF is good with the handling this in a management way. Pro in their games would even be okay with a yellow card here, based on the antics by the player. So that's kind of the range, getting a little bit closer potentially to dissent, as opposed to that emotional outburst. Anybody have any questions so far based on these three quick clips on emotional outburst?
So Richard, now we didn't hear any audio, and based on the visual reactions, we're being advised that this is just emotional outbursts. But if they are accompanied with certain words, then we can consider that to be dissent, right?
Yeah. Yep. So you're doing a fantastic job, KD, of getting us into the next section here. So dissent, where we are getting that personal, public, provocative component, visual and verbal cue examples. So here we're going to look at, distance. In the clip so far, we had nobody running from a distance to confront a match official in regards to their opinion of our call. Nothing's been aggressive, hugely aggressive in manner. We kind of had a little bit of, I think, fist pumping per se, but it was short in duration and quick and moved on. Not too much visual dissent of the decision. And we didn't have that mobbing component where you start to get three or more players coming in to dispute the decision of the match. I think that's an important component here of what USSF is saying we need to deal with better in regards to mobbing, and use that terminology to stamp that out of our game, because it's not needed in our game to have more than one person disputing our decisions. And then again, duration, something that is distracting from the game. It's very important that as a game official, we're there to enforce the laws of the game, but we also are the game manager in regards to what's happening on our field. And when we have a player who has decided to make the game about themselves because they don't like what is occurring, that's distracting from the enjoyment of the game for everybody else. And so when that duration starts to become part of the component of them distracting from the game, and that they're disputing the decision is become sustained and or lengthy, that's probably where we need to start to do something to say, hey, people want to play soccer here tonight, not discuss and debate the laws of the game per se. And then calculated, something that's more in regards to that they are trying to manipulate the situation as opposed to emotional outburst. Anybody have any question in regards to kind of these components of being able to identify dissent from emotional outburst? And I think the important part here, back to KD's comment in regards to what we've seen so far, wasn't personal, public, and provocative. And when we start to get into what I think you're going to start to see in some of these next clips, is you'll start to see components of those type of characteristics. Okay, so here's our first clip. Okay, for you, either just speak out and or type into the chat what created the situation for you for the referee to issue this yellow card for dissent.
He rushes over from a distance to get in the referee's face and make himself bigger in order to try to intimidate the referee.
Yep, very good. I think that's a very good distinction between what we've seen before, although it was, maybe just a couple hand gestures. He's doing it as he is enclosing to the referee. And so now we've coming from distance, using nonverbal skills to dispute the decision. Anything else anybody has that made this to be dissent as opposed to an emotional outburst?
The actions were provocative and directed right at the ref instead of just out of frustration in general.
Yep. So the nonverbal skills or nonverbal cues were not just kind of out of frustration as much as directed towards the ref themselves for the decision they made.
And it's prolonged.
And it was prolonged. It wasn't just one motion and stopped. It was as he was closing in on the ref, he kept providing them. So USSF here said that this was a yellow card, and Pro also agreed that this would be a yellow card in their games. And you guys hit on all three of the components that gave that dissent. So here's our next one. Okay, what's your feelings on this one?
His nonverbal gestures.
Okay.
Well, the big difference is, if I get this right, he's walking away from the ref, not towards the ref. So he's kind of frustrated, but it's not like attacking is a too strong word, but it's not like intimidating like the previous one.
Yes. So I think you've hit on a component here that maybe would sway some of us to that's just an emotional outburst. as opposed to Dissent because he's kind of moving away from the ref instead of towards the ref. What USSF said is that his aggressiveness in regards to his body language, and you can see almost the anger in his face, and that it's multiple actions, not just a one and done, that they felt that this should have been handled with Dissent. And you even notice, I'm not sure, let's see if they give us another, they don't. I want you to watch here because you even have I believe it's a second player who even starts to partake because he's like, oh, the ref's not doing anything to my teammate for this, so I think I'm going to get on the bandwagon. And you're right, you see the two of them there, and he walks away. But then you get another player here who's now also disputing. That came from another part of the field. And so USSF and both pro say that you should have dealt with the first player with a yellow card. I think I heard someone ask a question.
Yeah, wouldn't the right approach be kind of like the first time, hey, calm down, no more, you're stepping over the line, and then only if it's repetitive, this kind of behavior, then like the second time, I guess, you pull the yellow card?
So, I would personally, I would agree with that approach. USSF and Pro will tell you that they want a yellow card on this, but I think that potentially in our games that we do, you could use that tactic to say, hey, come on, that's kind of a big reaction because wasn't that for a throw-in decision, if I remember correctly? Hey, it's good. It's just a throw-in. However you want to try to manage it. I think what gets this referee in trouble is that we don't see any management in regards to the reaction. And so definitely it's got to be addressed and recognized that that's not acceptable behavior on the pitch today, all the way to you could give a yellow card for that action. Anybody else have thoughts or comments on that one? Okay. Let's get the next one here. Don't you love how you have all these people come over to help you? Okay, let's see if I can. Okay, so what do we think the yellow cards were given to in both of these examples?
Number 10 ran pretty much from the clear other side of the penalty box.
And in the first clip, we had the same piece of it. I think it was 15 who decided from a good 10 yards away that the ref hadn't been provided enough feedback that they needed to run in and provide some feedback. And so I think these are just such perfect examples of easy yellow cards that we as referees can provide. And I know that players will get upset about it, but it's such an easy one to give, and it doesn't really matter whether you're what's being said or not being said, but it's like, hey, you came from across the field to provide me feedback. That's not acceptable. If I let you do that, everybody else gets to do that. Here's your yellow card. And it's not even about what's being said or what's being disputed. So nice, easy yellow cards that you can use in your game to be able to manage dissent. And these are the pivotal points that's going to help you either hopefully stamp it out in your game, because if you permit them to come from a distance and provide you feedback, and do nothing with it, you're allowing everybody now, especially players who are close to you, to provide you feedback because you're not punishing it. Anybody have any questions in regards to these yellow cards? And we didn't even get into the surrounding the referee. There was more than one player there.
Yeah.
And it was easy, the ref doesn't even have to deal with the players that were there that were providing the dissent, because there maybe it would be harder to sell it, but it's like, dude, you just came from 10 yards. Here's your yellow card. Let's move on. So that's an easy yellow that maybe sometimes when you're trying to figure out what do I do here? Oh, wow, you came from distance. I'm giving you the yellow card, and then you can move on.
Yeah, when you jump into a mob like that, you're trying to escalate the issue a little bit, and so I think it's appropriate to give that player the yellow because they're setting a poor example for their teammates when the other two are dissenting or other players are
Right.
dissenting.
Yeah. And for the most part, you usually don't get much feedback in regards to handling that situation, because they're all like, dude, you're an idiot. Why did you come from there? We were already yelling at the ref. You didn't need to get involved. And we could have gotten out of here with no yellows if you wouldn't have came in. So
Agreed.
And Richard, this kind of ties into the captain law change as well.
yeah. Yeah, it potentially does. I think it's going to be interesting to watch how the captain law change gets put into action in our games. Because what I always worry about, and I'll some of the feedback during the high school season that we plan to share with everybody before we get started in the fall is that there's this concept, I think, from a team's perspective, that a captain has the ability to come up to the referee, ask a question, and it's the referee's responsibility to provide an answer, and kind of, that's the communication channels in which communication should be exchanged. I'm sure that we've all had experiences where we have captains that abuse that communication channel to their advantage and use the "I'm a captain, I can do this." And so that's the part where at the international level or at the pro level, I can understand the captain component being able to be maybe implemented better and better managed. Whereas when it gets into our games, I feel like we're going to have some struggles in that implementation. But we will see. Okay. Oh, is there a question?
Yeah, following up on Craig's question about the law changes and captains and for tournaments or leagues that adopt that law. The law doesn't say or specify how many captains are allowed. I at the Starfire Cup last week in one of the finals, I counted 6 guys with armbands, captain armbands. So I I don't know. I'm just talking out loud here, Richard. I don't know if that affects anything in terms of mobbing a referee. If all 6 were captains, if that makes it better for dissent or not, I don't know. But
Craig, isn't that new law state that it can only be one captain and that they have to have an armband?
Yeah, so it's kind
Yeah.
of pushing down from the very top leagues where there is only one captain on the field. There's only one person with an armband, and they kind of want to push that down to the lower ranks so that way, like you're talking about, Katie, with a team has five captain armbands, that the officials aren't being bombarded from five different directions, being surrounded, and that we have an individual that we can communicate with. But as you know, with the substitution patterns that youth games have, there's the captain's not always on the field at all times.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's another one of those laws of the game that work well at the high levels of the game that don't trickle down well to our weekend youth matches or weekend adult matches because we have unlimited substitutions, whereas the high levels of soccer have 3 or 5 substitutions. I think it's 5 now
It's
for the
five
most
now.
part.
Yeah.
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 So, and then, and of course, some of our youth games have the 7 for each half, so it's a little less, but most of the games we do, it's unlimited subs. Um, so I think it's the captain component is always something that um is I think a tool that we have to utilize to maybe better help manage dissent. But I'm not sure that's the one tool, that's the only tool we want to leverage in trying to manage the communication between the referee and the players. Okay, so offensive, insulting, abusive language and actions. What do you think are some of the things that would fit into this category?
FU ref.
Okay.
Provocative motions.
Provocative motions. Something that's getting into that racial, religious, and ethnic or other gender-based comments or actions. I think one that we always kind of forget is the unwanted physical contact. I just had a player this weekend who literally put their hands on my shoulders and kind of moved me to the side because I was in their way. And after it, I was like, wait a minute, you can't you can't touch me like that. But it wasn't anything that needed a red card. But that is in all my years of officiating, that's the first time I felt like I was being moved to get out of somebody's way. So here's what it gets put into that red card situation, and I think for the most part, this category we probably don't see a lot on our field, our fields, and which I think is good. But when we do see it, we need to deal with it appropriately with that red card. So let's go back, kind of review here. We've got the 3 different categories, of which emotional outbursts and responses, dissent, where we need to decide that we've got to give that yellow card, and if we're kind of in that gray area of is it an emotional outburst or is it dissent? If it's anything that meets that personal, public, or provocative, then that's an easy, should be a yellow card as opposed to us just managing it or not addressing it. And then lastly, that offensive, insulting, abusive language and or actions which would create that red card situation. So on here, you'll see that we have the gray areas. And so this is what USSF talks about in regards to that gray area and our considerations. That may tell us that we're going to make that a dissent call as opposed to an emotional outburst, or we may decide that it is a send off as opposed to just dissent. And so I think we've all been on games where we've talked about in that if that would have happened later in the game, maybe I would have given it for dissent. But at that point, I felt like all we needed was it to be managed. And so I think these are the areas that help us to be able to transition from one of those three zones, either up or down, because we may decide that based on the temperature of the game, that might be an emotional outburst 10 minutes ago. But based on where this game's headed right now at this time, I've got to deal with that in regards to issuing for dissent. And I think that we always have to be putting into this decision-making process is that by me issuing this misconduct, is it going to have a positive impact on game control, or is this misconduct going to be pretty much laughed at by the players and or participants that actually is going to put my game into a worse position than maybe if I try to manage myself out of it. Okay, so what if the game is stopped for dissent or offensive, insulting, or abusive language and or actions? What is our restart? Oh, come on, somebody's got to know.
If it was during live play, meaning there wasn't already a whistle for something else, then it's an indirect free kick. All verbal offenses are indirect free kicks.
Yep. And I know this isn't a situation in which we deal with a lot because I don't think many of us stop our games in order to deal with dissent. Usually, or unfortunately, dissent occurs based on us stopping the game because of a decision we made and them providing us feedback on that decision. But if you have a situation in which you have dissent because you've maybe decided not to call a foul because you didn't feel that foul was warranted, but you have dissent in which you feel that you have to deal with. Sometimes some of us may let it go till the next stoppage of play because maybe we have an imminent stoppage because the ball's going towards the touchline and we know it will be out. But if we don't have that and we feel like we need to deal with it, we do need to blow our whistle, provide that misconduct, and then we would restart with that indirect free kick. Okay, so let's get back to let's manage the levels of responses and looking at our stepped approach. So again, emotional outbursts. Make sure that we are empowered to act so that way we are dealing with it. Make sure you have a confident in your body language. Be calm and short. Don't create a dialogue and maintain composure. With dissent, you need to feel, again, empowered to act. Use confident body language. Don't, as you can see with this referee, their arm is showing a yellow card and is confident in that decision. It's not bent at an angle in like going, I think this is what I should be doing. And remember that comfortable distance. We want to make sure that we're more than an arm's length away from the player so that they can't react to us issuing that misconduct. And I think in the last one, for the yellow card for second dissent and or straight to red card, again, those same three characteristics, but also be ready to manage further emotions based on your decision of issuing that misconduct of a red card. So in regards to acting, you are empowered. What you ignore, you permit. Deal with the emotional outburst early so that they don't become dissent. I think that too many people allow dissent or the emotional outburst to fester and them to escalate. And before you know it, you really maybe haven't managed it and or warned the players. You now have rampant dissent on the pitch, and it's hard to put the contents back into the package. So make sure that you do feel empowered to act based on the dissent. And remember, just like we talk about in regards to managing the technical areas, in regards to warning, yellow card, red card. The step approach is a guideline. Sometimes you have to immediately go to a yellow card or you immediately have to go to a red card based on what has occurred on the pitch. It never was an emotional outburst. It was straight to they were disputing your decision in a provocative way. You had more than one player that came in. So there's just those situations in which you're not going to have the managed component to start with, and you just need to issue that yellow card so that way they know what the line is in regards to disputing your decisions. Okay, so let's view another clip here. Okay, what's everyone's thoughts on this play? Are you in agreement with the referee of issuing just the one yellow card for the misconduct of I believe probably for Spa? Or do you think the referee here maybe should have initiated additional cards? And or if you don't think that they should initiate additional cards, what is your thoughts of why a yellow card for dissent is not needed? Did everybody leave the webinar?
One reason I think that another yellow card might not be needed is because the player just keeps moving along.
Okay, so you feel that the referee was able to manage the dissent and the player just moved along and didn't perpetuate their dispute of the decision. Anybody have anything of where they felt a yellow card should have been given, and what kind of your thinking is behind that?
I generally defer to the ref's judgment. They know the temperature of the match. We're seeing just a 10-second clip. We don't know what's happened before that, and I think he managed it well. And it's not a hard and fast rule, but he's already given the yellow for Spa. I think it's appropriate to allow the game to restart before you issue another caution. That's not saying you can't if there are two separate offenses that warrant a sanction. But I think it's just managing the game, managing the players to not have to go back to back cautions in such a short period.
So Rachel and KD, USSF and Pro agree with both of your approaches. They felt that this could be managed. They felt that the referee usage of his hand and giving the stop sign really de-escalated the player, and the player backed out, as opposed to perpetuate the dispute of the decision, and so they felt management was perfectly acceptable in this situation. Okay, so on here, anybody want to give a yellow card for dissent?
I don't want to give a yellow card for simulation. I don't know about Dissent.
You're thinking for simulation?
I'm black. I don't think he was touched. He
Oh,
dove.
come on, he got touched.
Did he get touched? Maybe I'm missing
Yeah,
this.
he did.
Okay, okay.
I'll go back to it. Yeah,
Uh,
he got nicked. Um, I think that's why the player he got him in the back of the leg.
Got it. Okay, okay. I take it back,
Yeah,
then, Richard.
yeah, yeah. Could he have played through it? There's another. I'll go with you on that one, KD. He maybe could have played through it, but um, yeah, this both USSF and Pro said managing this is perfectly fine. The players again, although they're pleading their case, they're not being aggressive. He gives the stop sign. They don't continue to move in on him. And so they felt like this was acceptable in managing. This is a big decision being made here by the referee, and we're 0-0. So White's about to get scored on, most likely, and they're going to do anything to plead their case to maybe get out of a penalty kick for a stupid decision on their defender. So. And again here, we've got the power of stoppage time, and so whatever happens here, we can use that to our advantage as well. Okay, so we'll go through some clips here so we can kind of evaluate between emotional outburst, dissent, and or even maybe a send-off. So when we evaluate this, we should be considering the level of the player response and the range of the referee responses that they have available to them. And make sure that as we do this, think about the 3 Ps in regards to what could get us into the dissent column as opposed to managing. Okay, what does people have here? Do we got um manage? Do we have a yellow card? Or do we have a send off here?
I feel like I could argue for either manage or yellow card. The reason I was thinking maybe a yellow card is because, well, she committed the foul in the first place, and then when she disagrees with the referee, she drops to the ground with aggressive hand movements and makes a big scene. And then instead of moving along, she kind of moves in towards the referee. It seemed like yelling, and it kind of looked like she said the F word, but we can't hear the hear the dialogue, so I'm not sure if she actually did.
I I think this is in the gray area, and whether it's going to improve the match if you were to caution here is a consideration. I think it has she stopped there, and we allow that emotional outburst, but then she comes towards the ref maybe with some words, makes that gray area, and she's also a captain. I think we expect better behavior from the captains, and maybe that's a consideration. But this is definitely a gray area.
So USSF was okay with the emotional outburst with the finger waving. When it got to the pounding on the ground, they wanted a yellow card.
It was provocative in public. Is
Yep.
what USSF is saying?
Yep. Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say they went to, yeah, it's because it's public and sustained and lengthy with the pounding on the ground, where they were okay with the finger waving of no, there's nothing there, as being a emotional outburst.
Does USSF or Pro say anything about if it was a captain doing it? They have a higher standard? Because I know IFAB has a higher standard for coaches, not captains. But is there any guidance if a captain is out of line versus just another player that
So
no?
when I participated in this webinar with when US Soccer put it on, their comment actually was most likely she didn't, because I forget which player that is.
It was Marta.
Marta, yes.
Yeah.
Most likely didn't get a yellow card from the ref because it was her. But she should have been shown that yellow card because that behavior is unacceptable on the pitch by any player, whether that be a captain or not. So I think their take on it, KD, was more of a don't let, whether it be a captain or don't let big names influence your decision in regards to what's acceptable and not acceptable, because her prolonged dispute of the decision is what should have been punished with the yellow card.
Yeah, for us, well, the big name thing is not going to come into play. That's only at the professional level.
It is for us, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, come on. We've got lots of players that are on the national team and or going to play D1 ball that we need to take into account. Okay. Let's hit this one again. I think this one here is an important one in regards to the actions that should be done here. So what are you guys going to do on your games here?
I'm
Are you
giving a
give,
yellow.
what are you giving the yellow for?
Well, that it was directed at a ref in a provocative manner. That I don't even call it a fist pump or whatever that was. And the other reason I'm doing it is it's because it's towards my AR, and especially the games that we ref, things that I may let slide if directed at me that I can manage. If you come attack my AR, it's a whole different ball game, especially if they're teenagers. So for me, that's a consideration that it was at my AR and I'm going to protect my AR.
So USSF here would be happy with a manage and or yellow card, and Pro liked the yellow card and expects it because it was at the AR. And so, KD, I think you hit right on it, especially those of us who are adult referees and officiate with youth. I hope that we're all giving a yellow card on this play to stop that type of behavior towards towards our ARs. So. Okay, this is where my slides get a little messed up. Give me a second here. I got to keep the cheat sheet with me as we go here. Sorry about that. Now we got it. Okay, what does people have here? Manage, yellow card, send off.
I think that this is a managed situation because she just throws her arm up one time. It's not really directed at anyone, and then she just walks off and puts everything.
I'm with Rachel.
Anybody have a yellow card? Okay, that's what USSF and Pro also said. Okay. Are we managing this? Do we have a
No.
yellow card or a send off? Who said no? We're not managing it.
We're not managing it. It did no. It's minimum yellow from where you stopped it at. Too many people bum rushing him in his face, in his personal space. Um, we're not managing this.
What makes me
Yeah.
think maybe it could be a red card is the physical touch to the referee from
Yeah.
out two of the players, but
Yeah.
The question is who are we yellow carding? I guess that's the more
The goalkeeper.
question. Yeah.
So Craig, you're going with the goalkeeper?
Yeah.
Anybody else gonna
He gets the yellow.
he gets the yellow? Why are you giving the goalkeeper the yellow?
He's off the line. He came the furthest
He came
to
the
remonstrate.
furthest?
Yeah.
Yep. Most likely not going to have to deal with him later on for another yellow card too.
Most likely not.
Yep. Yeah. Go and that is USSF did make that comment that the goalkeeper is the good one to caution here because of most likely it's a safe caution and won't affect the outcome of the game, but yet you still are able to state that this behavior is not going to be accepted. And Pro also agreed that we should have a yellow card here. Um, they kind of talked about a send off since that was brought up. Um, there definitely was body contact there. The referee continued to move back to be able to get out of the area, and they didn't feel that the contact was violent in any way, and so that they were fine with it not being escalated to a red card. Just wanted to share their thoughts based on the comments that were made by all of you.
the other part that makes it difficult to red card is you had multiple people touching the referee, so then that's multiple send-offs if you're going to give it to one person.
Yeah.
Can you replay this video?
Yeah, I'll get you another view. What's everyone's thoughts here?
I'm happy with the red card there because, well, the second yellow for Dissent because he comes in from the point of the foul to come talk to the referee, and then he makes himself bigger and gets more aggressive with the referee, and then when the referee tries to back away from him, he continues to follow him, even with having one of his players step in between him and the referee.
Anything to add?
Would I'm okay with the first yellow, and I'm not disagreeing with the second yellow either, because there was something said or potentially something said that we don't know. But would it also be acceptable to manage that second yellow and allow restart before issuing that second yellow? Would that be acceptable by pro and USSF guidance?
Yeah, it's funny. My cheat sheets don't have the answers to this particular play. So I think I'll go with what I kind of try to um, advocate for with referees. I have one rule of thumb with referees because I see referees too often be too quick on a second yellow without a restart of a game. So KD, based on what you kind of said, kind of plays into that approach in which, okay, I've issued a yellow for dissent, and how do I now get this game restarted with this guy who has lost his mind over something so stupid without giving a second yellow, and can I pull that off? I struggled with this clip though because that guy's pointing his finger in the referee's face.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I get on that provocative. It's like he's escalating the situation instead of de-escalating it based on receiving that first yellow card. I don't know what else has gone on in this game, and I'm trying to remember if they even give us the score of the game. It doesn't look like they're going to here, or what time we are in this game, because I think that's also another component that could potentially help us in regards to the gray area of deciding whether we're going to do a second yellow and or try to manage it. But it's almost like you said, KD, I think something was said that shouldn't have been said.
Right.
Oh, it's 5-1. Yeah, no wonder he's mad. He's getting his butt kicked by Cincinnati.
Hmm.
What was, and I missed the minute on that.
61st or 62nd minute.
Yeah,
61.
62nd. Yeah, you're losing 5-1. Wow. What, anybody else have thoughts on that one?
I know I've already talked, but also with like the confidence that he comes in to be that assertive with the referee makes me think that this player might have also said things earlier in the game or also acted this way prior in the game.
It's a pretty simple foul to get a red card uh, for dissent. Who knows? Maybe the referee was having a bad day, or I think number 5 may have been having a bad day.
He looks like Pavel. I was thinking that when I first saw the clip. That looks like Pavel.
Okay. I appreciate everyone sticking around tonight. So here's some key takeaways from USSF. Know which hat you're wearing. I guess most of us on this call know we're wearing the U.S. soccer hat, so we can um, uh, align ourselves in regards to our decisions with U.S. Soccer, which was pretty much conveyed by most everybody tonight in these clips. Or if you're doing a pro game or get to your pro games down the road, I almost think that pro was maybe a little bit. I think they are more black and white than gray, but they also have a different venue and setting and atmosphere than we do on some of our games, especially when those of us who do adult games by ourselves and don't even have ARs. It sometimes can seem like 22 people against one, and we may approach it in a different way just based off of our own survival skills of wanting to get out of that game. So make sure that we are we recognize the level of the player response, and that you all should feel empowered to act. And issue the yellow or red card if an action or language warrants it. We don't have to go through the 3 steps in regards to warning and then dissent and then red card. Although I know lately I've been jumping to yellow card maybe more than I used to because of having this material available to me and kind of better understanding of being able to identify dissent and distinguishing between an emotional outburst and straight dissent. If it's straight dissent, let's just give the yellow card. Players will learn this new approach on how we're differentiating the distinction between emotional outburst and dissent, and hopefully they'll clean up the dissent so that it's less prevalent in the games that we officiate. So with that, I'll just open it up and see if anybody has any other questions, comments based on the materials tonight.
Do they cover coaches dissent? A lot of, well, I think all the video clips are player dissent, and our discussion has been focused on player dissent. But for our youth matches, a lot of that comes from the coaches. And they have a lower bar of what's allowed from them because they're coaches. So I know we're out of time, but just that, just that comment.
It's a good question, KD. I was kind of in putting this together tonight, in one of the communications, they talked about they were going to have this dissent, and then they were actually going to have a training on dissent from, I think, the technical area or coaches, but that training didn't come to fruition this year. And from what I understand, they're done in regards to the CEL webinars, continuing education, learning something or other. So maybe we'll get that in next year's installment. I think based on what we have so far and what we, I think, have been advocating in the Pacific Northwest, it really, in regards to spectators and coaches, we just go back to our, I think you can apply the 3 buckets in regards to, is the coaches, are they reacting are they having an emotional outburst, and are they fitting in that category, and can I manage it, which maybe come in where I do my warning, or it's, I'm not going to even address it because it's not to the level of dissent. But then when I get into that dissent column, am I going to give that warning, which I encourage us all to do, because it kind of helps draw that line, because as we all know, we all each have different thresholds, which maybe this training material will get our thresholds to be more aligned across our different referees. But giving that warning to the coach to say, hey, that's it, that's enough, I'm not going to listen to you anymore, and then coming back with that yellow card, I think, is the right way to continue to try to manage that. I think in the clips that we saw tonight, you know, you can see it because they're part of the play. It's happening as a reaction. Coaches and their emotional outbursts kind of fit into that component, which we're really not going to see while we're officiating. But when they cross over to that dissent, they are distracting from the game, and that's why we're seeing it, and we should be dealing with it. So I don't know, KD, if I just convoluted that more for you or not. And I don't have that nice black and white answer. That's why there's the gray zones between the three areas.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, no.
I think we got to continue to help the game evolve. And I know that I'm trying to help educate our players and our coaches in regards to dissent, and that referees aren't going to tolerate it anymore. It needs to come to an end. And sometimes we got to do that through misconducts, which usually takes care of it for us.
Yep, no, thank you. This was helpful.
I threw in a survey. If you take a couple minutes to click on that, let us know what you thought of the material and give us any ideas in regards to future webinars would be great. USSF did another webinar this spring on positioning around the penalty area, which we probably will do maybe in July. And then in August, we'll do our annual league kickoff with all the different rules that we have to apply to all the different games that we officiate for the fall. If no one has any other questions, I appreciate you all sticking around a little longer tonight. Hopefully you all are out practicing how to count to 8 and making sure that you start to use those nonverbal communication with your fingers and counting down the last 5 seconds of our 8 seconds. So with that, I'll wish you all a good Monday evening. Thanks a lot for attending.
Thank you, Richard.